This episode is brought to you by the letter I.
My name is Rick McGray. Remember the name! And welcome to the second edition of the Post-Lockdown Report, hosted by yours truly, Rick McGray, in case you forgot. Now let me start by saying these three words. Inquiry, inquiry, inquiry. In Nova Scotia, this is almost as foul of a word as some other choice words, like saying a Donair's hamburger, or that the Yarmouth Ferry is worth the money, or that Northwood cares is more than just a saying. I'd be comfortable saying we live in a real safe place compared to other places in the world. But in April, Nova Scotia was rocked by the mass murder of 22 people by a lone gunman. I won't say his name because people will think I'm chasing clout. And in the wake of this, Nova Scotians have learned bits and pieces about this man and the ordeal that unfolded over those 2 days. The RCMP, or for my world viewers, the cops, have been under heavy scrutiny and remained very tight-lipped about the horrible way this situation was handled. Ooh. We heard everything from gun importer to deranged, from connections to a biker club I'm not crazy enough to say the name of because I simply don't want that smoke, or the fact he had replica uniforms, vehicles, and a lot of guns with no license. And on top of covering half the province of Nova Scotia in a 13-hour period, this guy killed a lot of people. This is not the first time dentistry and the word review or inquiry have been in the same sentence. We were not sent a message through the doomsday messaging system that yelled at us on Easter to stay away from our families due to COVID-19. Instead, the RCMP chose Twitter, an outdated social media platform that not a lot of people used to let the residents of Portapique in Nova Scotia know there was a crazed gunman on the loose that no officer seemed to try to get in front of for many different reasons. This reporter read a story of one responding officer running into the woods and hiding after being shot in the foot, or that the officers in charge did everything they could to not engage the gunman, going as far to threaten termination to any cop that dared intercept. The only officer was the K9 officer in Enfield, where the gunman was taken out by police forces, or Heidi Stevenson, who sadly lost her life to take this man off the road. Respect to you, heroes. This video would be hours if we dissected all that went wrong. Google the information and you will find many articles that explain the information and the questions needing to be asked about why or how this was able to happen. Now, when it was all said and done, it could not have been more of a mess. An inquiry was asked from the beginning to give answers to the families of the victims and also the people of Nova Scotia. The Nova Scotia Strong phrase was meant to show how resilient we are and that together we could get over anything. Well, the government were Nova Scotia wrong in how they dealt with this. Yeah, I said it, Nova Scotia wrong. A tribute was organized with local celebrities that celebrated the lives of the lost, but the story was seemingly gone from the headlines almost instantly after the tribute. Calls for an inquiry to be opened were met with resistance from the same government that said it was okay to protest, but not okay to go to the grocery store with your best friend. Yo, Steve, this guy shot a lot of people along the way, but that doesn't warrant an investigation? And I'm left to ask, what are you blazing, Mr. McNeil? Some of that amazing NSLC weed that doesn't get anyone high unless you started smoking weed yesterday? And if you can tell me, how do I get that weed? There is no reason to look at so many people and tell them they don't deserve answers while new information slowly leaks out about this shooter and the cops' knowledge of this man leading up to it. His love for role-playing, his want to kill cops, his violent past, yet he was still able to live life normally and allowed to make teeth for people. That alone for me would have been a red flag. But the kicker for this reporter was not the hidden rooms or replica vehicles or the wannabe persona. I did mention foreplay. No, roleplay. I meant roleplay. I digress. But the real kick in the pants for the government at all levels was when it was leaked. He drove his own car to Brinks, the money safe for all the banks in Nova Scotia, walked in with plain clothes on, and they handed him a duffel bag with 475,000 big ones in it just days before the shooting occurred. And then it was released anything given to anyone over 10,000 is reserved for a confidential informant or an agent. You guessed it, folks. He was James Bond. It was all part of a twisted plot to take away Canadians' guns. That's a lot of cheddar to give to a man with a violent history. If I had 10 G's on me when I was pulled over, I'd be arrested, deemed a criminal, and I'd be asked why I have so much Madonna merch. Still, after this new information kept falling from the sky, the media pressure, both social media and the one the government owns, was still not enough to warrant an inquiry. Ew! Gross, right? What's gross is the fact they said something even more disgusting. We will launch a review. Yes, an inquiry's ugly cousin that never fesses up to anything. Basically nothing that would put people in high positions and sensitive positions like some of the families find themselves in right now, with no hope of finding out more. The RCMP can deny in a review as much as they want, and they're not legally binded to tell anyone how bad they handled this situation and their lack of readiness or urgency. If this were to happen again, the public would lose even more faith than they already have in our law enforcement. It is just that will rock the public opinion. Then the families of Portapique and many others drove to Halifax, which isn't close at all, and walked in a protest with many others on one of the hottest days of the year. And I mean, I commend them for not letting this die like the government made sure the shooter did. Or whatever happened, because their ambiguity is what's causing all these issues. These families, without a doubt, this reporter says, with no argument, they deserve an inquiry to hold those responsible to be held accountable, regardless if it's the cops arguing with each other on the side of the road or the ones who decided to drive by. But that's a whole other can of worms. Eventually, it was decided there would be a joint review and inquiry, but it was met with heavy public backlash. After this was announced, an inquiry would be held. Stephen McNeil went on television and said, yo, I've always wanted an inquiry this whole time. I'm really sorry. Pull your socks up, Steve. It's been 4 long months. We all know that you were told to make this move due to backlash from the public. And right at the same time, a third scandal breaks. The third ethics violation and third investigation to the same Prime Minister who has apologized to Canadians so many times. That's the thing, government. You just can't apologize and think it will go away. It never worked with my mother when she did it, and it certainly isn't that easy with a whole country of people demanding answers. We are being conditioned to look past indiscretions, but not being treated with the same respect. When we do the same things, we are labeled criminals by the same people breaking their own laws and stealing money they stole from us while getting rich off the poor. My question is, how are liberal socialists yet act like capitalists when it suits their agenda? And I always wonder, had the public not supported these families, would they get their answers, or would they be left in the dark despite an incredible miscarriage of resources and law enforcement that cost unnecessary loss of life? Shake your head, liberals, on both levels. This is the worst shooting in Canadian history, and you just sweep it under the rug because it plays to the narrative you don't want out and gives power in argument. Defund the police. I'm Rick McGray. Remember the name.
Thanks for watching.